Hey Lester, hey everyone, and welcome to Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios Hollywood. As you just heard, storytelling plays such an important role in television, in movies, in news, and of course in theme parks like this. And we're gonna get to talk to the creative team that helped put all this together in just a bit. But first, while we're here, might as well go spend some time among the magic, right? Let's go! This is Super Nintendo World, and it feels like I've been teleported right into the video games. Opening up just a few weeks ago, Super Nintendo World's art design and architecture immerses guests in a 360-degree environment plucked straight out of the Super Mario Bros. Galaxy. Oh, and the whole world is interactive. RFID bands let visitors interact with the tech placed throughout the entire park. Ever play the video game Mario Kart? Now you can ride it in real life. If 10-year-old Gotti could see me right now inside of Bowser's castle, let's go! The cutting-edge technology of the Mario Kart ride uses augmented reality to bring you right into the game, letting users race through underwater levels, above the clouds, and right on Rainbow Road itself. The art, the rides, the food, the characters, all creating a storytelling environment that takes you right into the world of the game. So how did Universal Studios take this iconic franchise and turn it into a hot new destination? They turned to the Universal Creatives. And I am thrilled to be in the studio, joined by the folks that work on creating the destinations and experiences for all of you at home. Joining us now is Abby Finnan, Universal Creative Show producer, Nazanin Zakresh, Universal Creative Director of Facility Design, Rose Gonzalez, NBCU Integrated Marketing Strategy Senior Director, and Hez Chorba, Universal Products Experiences and Senior Director. They had to pull me away from Super Nintendo World to be here, but I gotta say, what a magical place. It is so crazy because you remember that you're here in Hollywood and then all of a sudden you are totally transported. Everywhere you look, all you see is Super Nintendo World, and that's a place that a lot of us grew up just in 2D, and to see it in 3D, it is incredible. So I do want to start with you, Hez. Let's just real quick start with what you do, what your job kind of entails, because I know if I was watching this at home, I'd be like, they play Super Nintendo all day, right? What does it look like?
So I'm the Senior Director of Creative for Games and Digital Content, and I set the creative vision. And what that means is I work in canon, story building, character design, and world building. So that's the role every day.
Just a little world building for people. And Rose, how about you?
Yeah, so I have had the privilege of working with marketing and sales within the theme park to launch this beautiful land that we all love and is near and dear to our heart. Mushroom Kingdom is, as you said, Gotti, is really where people are transported. And it's just been such an amazing experience because what we do, we've worked with Nintendo, we work with our Universal Creative partners to really bring this story to life. We do lots of investigation work, not just about the IP as a Nintendo intellectual property. We do a lot on the consumer, and then we get all the details about what's going in the land, and we put it all together and then build a story to the consumer.
And Nazanin?
Good morning, everyone. So I'm the Director of Facility Design. I work with a team of architects and engineers. What we do, we bring the team on board, and we know the creative intent of the project, so we start planning from the beginning and work on the construction drawings to make sure we pull the permit and we are ready for the construction of the project.
So Bowser did not build his castle?
No.
That was you.
It had a little help.
Little help.
Yeah.
And Abby?
So, excuse me, I'm the show producer for Super Nintendo Worlds. Big part of my job is working directly with Nintendo as well as our park partners and the other areas of the team like Nazanin's group to bring this world to life. We work very, very closely with Nintendo to make sure everything is exact to what it would be walking through the Mushroom Kingdom to give you that great experience and that great feeling you have walking through. We want that nostalgia to come through. We want you to be immersed in this environment. So
And we've been talking so much about storytelling today, and for traditional writers, a lot of the storytelling is, we're going to build this world, the audience is going to sit there on the couch, we're going to bring them in through a camera, and we're going to tell them what happened. Here, you were literally bringing them into the world. So Abby, I want to start once again with you. How does storytelling go into building a world like Super Nintendo World?
It's the most important part, I think, here at Universal Studios Hollywood. We've gotten very good at that. We want to put you into the story itself. We want you to feel like you're actually playing the game yourself rather than just watching the game. You get to participate. For our land here, one of the challenges is helping Princess Peach get the golden mushroom back from Bowser Jr. It's a bit of subtle storytelling, but if you keep your eyes open, there's definitely Easter eggs to lead you along that path. But we want you to you're working with Mario in this case to help get the golden mushroom back. So you want to feel like you're truly with the characters. Same thing, we did the same thing with Harry Potter World. You get to walk through Hogwarts itself. You get to be a part of that story.
I mean, Hogwarts, it's funny because when people come visit me, I live pretty close by, and I tell people I live near Hogwarts. I'm like, Hogwarts up on the hill? Yeah, I live near Hogwarts.
You can see the turrets
right
there.
Exactly. I mean, you see it right there. It's amazing. Nazanin, keeping with that storytelling thread, it's funny because, facility design, I think like construction, hard hats, cranes, and then storytelling. Both of those going hand in hand. When you're trying to build a facility as big and as immersive as we've seen, does everybody on the team kind of have to know the story? Like from the construction workers that are on the set being like, no, Princess Peach has to get rescued, and we got to show them how to do that? Is that something that...
Yeah, so we emphasize on that. We were always told facility is there for the creative intent. So we always joke about it back and forth, like, hey, creative is going to be there if facility is there. But we work as a team, collaborate. Of course, we want to make sure the story is being told. We plan from the beginning. The project is like a Swiss watch. We have 4 disciplines in our creative department that write, show, facility, and construction. And we all concentrate on how we can deliver this project best and give the experience to the guests coming in. It's the best feeling when they walk in the land and the awe moment, this vibrant color. So what we as a facility designers make sure provide the structure, provide the power and utilities, but make sure they are kind of invisible and the story is standing out, and it's just they're there to support the show.
You know what's not the best feeling? When you're in that ride, in Bowser's ride, and the 10-year-old next to you is like, they tell you their score, and you tell them your score, and you're like, dang it.
I know, that has been challenging for me,
And it was
too.
probably their first time.
Exactly, the first time. You're trying for like the 5th time. We've got a student question at Cal State Fullerton. What's the question?
Hi, good morning. My name is Delfino Camacho. I'm from El Camino College, and my question for the panel is, how do you develop plot and dialogue for a story built around a theme park attraction as opposed to a television show or a movie?
A great question. Rose?
What was the question? Can you repeat it?
How do you want to repeat your question again?
Yeah. How do you develop plot and dialogue for a story built around a theme park attraction as opposed to a television show or a movie?
How we build the dialogue, certainly it's with the Universal Creative team, but the dialogue that we tell the consumer is very authentic. It's very authentic to the Mushroom Kingdom. It's very authentic to the characters, because there are fanatics, fans at every level. And if you're not authentic, if you put something in the wrong place, and then we show it in marketing or we talk about it, then we just know that, okay, we have to get it right. And so when we're telling the story, it is completely different, because we have what we call long format, and we've got really quick formats where we've got to tell people the story. And for us, it's a longer term proposition, meaning that we're talking to the guests, the consumers, for a very long time, because we know that people here locally are going to come sooner, and then people from outside the local market and internationally, they may take a little bit longer too. So the script, as you would say, or the communication for each of those audiences is tailored specific to them to get them to motivate them to come here.
And that's down to some of the characters. When the characters are walking around in the park, they are saying literally lines like Luigi #1, Mario #1, right?
Right. I mean, it is just it really does feel like you're in the game. Somebody dropped you in the game and you're completely surrounded. I brought my family here for a visit, and my brother, who was a Nintendo fanatic, just walked in and said, like, he was blown away. Like, his mouth dropped, he was speechless, and he just could not believe that he was in the real Mushroom Kingdom. We not only saw that with our family and friends, but a lot of us were there the first day guests walked in, and it brought tears to our eyes because we really built an authentic story. Everything that we do has to be authentic to the characters, and in the marketing as well, where we do everything from TV commercials, social posts. We're responsible for all of the marketing to talk about the land. That we really have to get it right.
And I know that you're coming from Disney. You spent some time at Disney working on some of the Star Wars attractions there. Now we've got the video game here at Universal Studios. What's it like taking a video game or something that everybody is so familiar with and taking it to the backlot of Universal Studios?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure like there was a lot of like complications and thoughts around doing something like this. Universal is leading the way, taking the video game industry and building it into a physical world. So when I look at it, I think about, well, how do you transition digital gameplay into physical gameplay? And to me, it was a blockbuster when I actually went through that warp pipe and actually went into the world. That was a special moment for me, playing the NES back in the day all the way and still playing it today. I'm a retro gamer. But then there's other things that I think are probably really hard for Universal creative team to do, which is how do you take and put people inside, real world people inside the canon? To me, that's incredibly difficult to do, and it worked seamlessly. So, and then the last thing I would say is like when I think about this is like how do you transition games physics right into the real world? Now, we're probably not going to see a real person flying around in a raccoon suit, but hopefully someday we get there. But I think Universal did a great job of accomplishing the goals.
And that's not I mentioned the augmented reality. I mean, that game is a game, I can't even describe, I've tried to describe it to my friends, and I'm like, you can't. It's like, almost like you're in a fighter,
it's full immersion.
F-16, and then you've got these things, and then you're on Rainbow Road, and then the next thing you know, there's a score at the end, and that score is different for everybody that goes through the game, right?
Right. And to me, that's the difference between linear content and interactive content. And whether you're doing video games or you're doing theme parks, they both go together.
That's me screaming second time around.
Awesome.
I'm telling you, I cannot wait to go back. It is the most fun I've played. We've got a pre-submitted question from Nadia Moreland from Langston University in Oklahoma. Let's take a listen.
My question is, what steps are taken in order to achieve the interactive storytelling within the theme park?
Yeah, and so not just the augmented reality game, can you take us through everything that goes into making that experience at Super Nintendo World immersive?
It starts with Nintendo themselves. We work so extremely closely with them. They look at everything. They pitch ideas, we pitch ideas. So it all comes down to them, really. They created such an incredible product that we had a lot to work with. There was, so many different options. There's different types of games. There's the mini games, there's the racing games, then there's the adventures themselves. So we really had a lot to work through. We have an incredible creative director and creative team who put their heart into this and truly, looked at everything to make it the best experience for our guests of all ages, all sizes. Doesn't matter your experience with Nintendo. We wanted everybody to be able to experience Super Nintendo World as it should be experienced.
And just looking behind us here, I mean, interactive, especially with the wristbands, right? So much of the park is now interactive. Nazanin, putting that together in a facilities plan, what was that like?
Yeah, that was fun and challenging. So because you want to make sure everybody experience, they can play with it. So like we had to make sure the height is right, everybody, it's accessible to everybody. So as we install, sometimes we're like, oh, the power should have been here, and then we had to shift it. So that's a constant work with the team, with the construction team, with the creative team, give and take. Okay, so how do we do this? Because we have to make sure everything is waterproof and we meet the code requirement. But at the same time, look this amazing. So it's been fun, at the same time challenging, but at the end, just people walking and playing with it, it's all worth it.
Yeah, I bet we've got 12 atmospheric rivers now, and it's still working, and they're still, you know, it's sold out on rain days even. Right. It's incredible. Let's go to a question from our audience. Blaine asks, how can I build my storytelling as a student skills without having a degree in that specific field? That's a really good question, especially since so much of the future is changing. When I went to school, nothing like this even existed, or I don't even think they were thinking it up. So for a student that's in school right now, how do they build those storytelling skills and also be able to envision a future like this?
I'll start with maybe the marketing in terms of storytelling. It has to be authentic to the property itself, whether it's Wizarding World of Harry Potter or whether it's Nintendo. It is definitely about the authenticity of the IP. Now, in terms of how do you build your skills, I would say is you write, and you write. And then you have also this concept in your head. Like for example, when I'm writing marketing plans, it also depends who the audience is, whether I'm tailoring it to our chairman or if I'm tailoring it to my marketing and sales team. That story has to come across. It has to engage them, it has to excite them, it has to motivate them and influence them to act upon what we're sharing. So my team and I lay the strategy, but we really need all of marketing and sales to help with that. So it really depends on sort of every individual tactic, if you will, whether it's social media, email, anything in the digital space. It definitely is really honing in on what we're trying to communicate, but it always goes back to the authenticity.
And in this case, maybe it doesn't hurt to play video games?
Yes.
It definitely doesn't.
Yes.
I mean, I kind of look at everyone as a storyteller. Mobile devices change that. There's not a kid out there that's not on a mobile device. And so everyone's a director, right? And when I look at that, writing is crucial, but you know, we have new means of communications, whether it's AI influence, et cetera, to be able to do storytelling. So everyone has a personal story. And they can take that and use that as their stepping stones.
And we've got another question coming from the East Coast. Let's head to Guad Venegas at Florida International University for another student question. Guad?
Hey, Gotti, we have a question from one of our journalism seniors here, and this is about the creative process when it comes to selecting these themes or these rides. What's your question? This is Lauren Wirtz.
Yes, I want to know what rides do you guys choose to captivate or motivate people to come to your theme parks?
Oh, that's such a good question. Rose, how about, I'll start with you.
It's a very, very long process. It also depends on we have a research team both internally and then we work with a lot of research groups externally. And what we do is do a tremendous amount of research. Our internal agency department looks at all the intellectual properties and how are they resonating with kids that are in what we call our sweet spot, either kids or adults, and what would be the next intellectual property or the next one that we think would be great. In terms of Nintendo, it's also around us all the time. I think as marketers, we are getting information from us all over the place. I remember at the time I went to my leader and I said, we really need to do something in the field with my nephews are just playing Minecraft, and there's just something there in terms of building and RIP. And at the time, we were already working on Nintendo, but it hadn't filtered all the way through the group. So it is definitely at the highest level, taking all of this research, and then as we come on to then build the story, then we're involved. But it's a tremendous amount of research and finances, right?
Right.
So you've got to build a profit and loss statement on that particular capital investment. So the investment that we put into that, what's going to be the payback? And there's lots of things that go in that, not just the attendance, not just the food and retail, but what's really the payback and how long will we have this property? Ideally, we're looking for a lifetime partnership, and 20 years plus. We definitely want to keep those intellectual properties here for a very long time because the investment's pretty big.
I wonder if whoever first thought of this idea and that colliding of worlds really realized how incredible this is going to be, because when you look at the boxes checked, I mean, this is when you deal with the nostalgia and you deal with the different generations. You have kids that are playing Super Mario Kart, and you have us, we grew up, on the old school Nintendo, and how much time human beings actually already spent in the Mushroom Kingdom to finally build it in real life. Like, it's just, now it seems like, oh, this is obvious.
You're like, duh.
I bet it was quite a process to convince everybody at the table to do it. And now,
probably not that difficult. And I think what also is the beauty of intellectual properties like Potter, Wizarding World of Harry Potter, and Nintendo, they have these built-in audiences. They have these people that love them. So we as a company don't have to spend what would be a tremendous amount of money to build these stories up. There's stories already built that we just get to then bring them to life and then communicate them to our guest audience.
And we've got another question coming from Sabrina. Sabrina asks, what's the future of gamification and augmented reality in themed entertainment? And I think chapter 1 or chapter 2 have been written here at like Universal Studios Hollywood. You think of Harry Potter, you think of Hogwarts, now this. What do you think's going to come next?
I mean, animatronics obviously are going to be the next probably big leap. Seeing characters walk around and interact with you. I think we're at that early stage. We're very early, I think, in where we're going and mixing the mediums. But Universal's heading that, obviously. And with the video game space, I think the expectations are, the physics are different, right? So I think that's going to continue to be pushed. How do we get to those dreams? How do we make people more immersed in this world?
Physics be damned.
Yeah, it gets
in some
everyone.
of these cases, I mean, it's
Right.
wild. Even the Backlot tour has so much augmented reality now. It's incredible. And we've got Andrea Casillas at Cal State Fullerton. Hey, Andrea, what's your question?
Hello, my name's Andrea. I go to Cal State Fullerton, and my question is, how did you guys end up working for NBC Universal? Like, it's such a huge company, and like your positions are like not rare, but like kind of rare. So yeah, how'd you guys end up working where you're at now?
Abby, we'll start with you.
So mine was kind of an accident. I had a friend recommend me for an administrative assistant position. She basically emailed me and said, I think you could do this. So I took a shot, and it's the best shot in the dark I've ever taken. I've been able to work my way through. I think on my 5th different position here. I was, luckily I've had some great opportunities and some wonderful mentors who have helped me get to where I currently am as a show producer. But I studied television and film production, and it was kind of just the next leap. I'm an avid reader, so the idea of being able to walk through these stories really captured something in my heart, and it was the right fit for me at the right time. So my key is kind of luck, and then a lot of work.
And Nazanin?
So I used to work for an architecture firm, conventional architecture firm for 13 years, and never thought about themed entertainment. Then I had some projects at Universal working on a restaurant as an architect outside. And then it was time in my career that I was like, I need a change. I need some challenging, I was like really comfortable with the office I was with. And at that time, the person I was working at Universal, she's like, oh, we always have a job for you here if you want to do that. I was like, I never thought about being on the owner side, and I would think about it. It took me a month, and then I was like, oh, it's so close to home, and I should give it a try. And from there, I just started as a project manager, part of the Universal creative team. Worked on the fountain on City Walk after working on so many architecture and building and schools, and this was like a flat interactive fountain. I thought, whoa, that seems easy, but that by itself was such a challenge, limited space we had, and then from there on moved up to working on Margaritaville, Secret Life of Pets, and then Nintendo.
Oh my God, that must be so fun to go to a barbecue with your old friends and be like, what, oh, you're working on a school? Built a castle.
It's fun. I know from the time I started working at Universal, suddenly my son is like, my mom is the coolest architect. She works on Nintendo, so it totally changed his attitude too.
And Rose?
You are pretty cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. I started my career in consumer products early in my career, and then I was working in California, as well as I was an expat in Mexico City. And then I went to work at Disneyland, and that was just such a great foundation. And then when I came over to Universal, I was just so elated because I, like you, I've worked on City Walk and every attraction launch since I started 12 years ago. But what brought me here specifically to Universal was a leader, was a mentor, and the importance of networking, right? I impart that to the students here is network, talk to people, make sure you keep those contacts, LinkedIn, and because typically how you get these roles are people that you know. Again, whether it's a mentor or building those relationships. I would just encourage you to build relationships with people you know. Find someone that you trust. Find someone to tell you the truth. Like, you know what? You're not really going to be good at X, Y, and Z, but I think you'd be great at marketing, or I think you would be great at this. And then try it out. Just try. Failure's a good thing. Failure is a really good thing. And all of us have failed, and there's such learning. You learn. There's just a great way to learn. And I applaud you, students that are out there and doing what you're doing. I worked and went to school for my undergrad and my graduate degree. You can do it. Like, your whole world is open to you, and then you just keep trying, and it's by process of elimination that you fall into. And I realized, I'm in my dream job. And when I first started at Universal, this moment I walk onto City Walk, I was like, oh, I'm gonna take the job because I grew up coming here. So City Walk was like the old BB Kings. We'd come, with my friends and have, a sandwich at the Hard Rock and the BB Kings, and we partied, and it was just an amazing time. So bring back those memories and know that I can tell those stories to consumers and guests. As soon as I walked on, I was like, I'm done. I'm taking it. They hadn't offered it yet, but I knew I was taking it.
and as we're running out of time here, but I wanted to ask you real fast, how did you go from gamer to being a world builder?
I guess my career jumped all around. I started, I would say my career was in Universal Creative when I first started. This is my second stint here. And where I learned world building was Islands of Adventure. And I started as a figure finisher, so I was a technician at Universal, and I worked my way up. I came from a small town in Ohio, didn't have a lot of opportunity, but I wanted to work in brands, and I wanted to tell stories. So I worked my way through the system, and ultimately, I learned the tools of storytelling there, and some of the best leadership that's still here today. And it's ultimately, I was currently just working on a Galaxy for 15 years, and now I've come back to Universal, and it's because of the leadership, I would have to say.
We're so glad you're back.
Dream. Yeah, it's an amazing opportunity.
Welcome back home.
Yeah.
Let's go back to
home.
Guad Venegas in Florida, Florida International University, for a question from Megan. Guad?
Gotti, the next student was the most excited person when we began this panel. She's a huge fan of Super Nintendo. Megan Lichman, she has a question about the tools that we have to understand success of these rides.
Hello. So what are the different metrics that you look at when determining whether a theme park will be a success or not?
That's a tough one because there's so many metrics. I mean, from the games that are being played to people coming back. Yeah, what would you say are some of the biggest metrics?
We measure success, number one, by attendance, how we're doing, how many people we're able to get through. The other thing that we measure success is guest satisfaction. It's super, super important for us. We build these amazing experiences, but if guests aren't enjoying it or guests are giving us continual feedback, we do listen to our guests. So it's really important. That's a key metric. Attendance, guest satisfaction, how we're doing overall as the team before us that was on. It's about profitability. It's the bottom line, quite honestly. You know, what is not only Nintendo, but the overall park bringing to the bottom line. And we know that year over year, if you grow attendance year over year, that's critical. It's critical to we're always trying to beat a year ago. Probably in every business at NBC Universal.
And it looks like we've run out of time because now we've got to go play some video games together and see how we stack up. Thank you so much for an incredible conversation, and thanks so much for all those incredible questions. Learned a lot about parks. Hope you at home learned as well. And thanks so much for joining me here in the studio.